Hi, welcome to InaPickleKnitting. My name is Donna and I'm coming to you from Manassas, Virginia on July 11th, 2018. Today is a Wednesday and this is a podcast about knitting, a little bit of sewing today, some other little projects I've been coming up with, and fiber-related children's literature. So if you have come and visited before, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. And if this is your first viewing, thank you so much for giving the podcast a try. So we'll start off today with some finished objects that I have obviously finished. And the first one is my a cowl that's on the mannequin back here. This is called the Fold Over Cowl, and it is a Universal Yarns pattern. And I did finish this a few weeks ago. Let me pause and I'll take it off the mannequin and bring it up a little bit closer for you. This cowl was knit in this Wisdom Yarns Poem Sport. It's 100% wool and the colorway is lavender, I think. It's a number 1002. And then they've mentioned lavender. And this is all that I have left. It is a fairly chunky yarn. It was variegated with purples and greens and used very large needles. Don't remember right now. I think they were a 19. And then they have these large buttons on it. So if it's just like this, and then you fold over the top and wear it as a cowl. The mannequin's kind of small, so I think it kind of comes more on the shoulders than it probably will. I will admit to not being thoroughly pleased with it. It came out the way it's supposed to come out, but once it was done and I put it on, I'm not happy with it. But I'm going to show it to my daughter and see if she has any interest in it. And if not, well, who knows? Be another one of those projects that nobody really wants. I haven't had too many of them, but it's funny that the other one I can think of that left me with the same feeling was also chunky or bulky weight yarn project. So maybe that's just not my thing. So that's my first finished object. Now I'm going to pause here and go put it back. The next finished object is one that I'm actually very pleased with, and this is my Meandering top, which came from the Knit Pro magazine spring/summer 2015. So if I could participate in the oldies knit along or make along, this is a project I could submit because it was an old magazine, and I bought it for that pattern. And also I bought the yarn at the time, which was this Savannah DK from the Fiber Company in the bluegrass colorway, I believe, and I had an entire skein left over plus a little bit of the fourth skein. So it really only took me right at 4 skeins of yarn to finish, and it had said I needed 5. But I'm always happy to buy more yarn and not have that yarn chicken playing into place. I will put a picture of it on the screen here so that you can see it all together, as it's a little bit hard to see things otherwise. And now I'll hold it up. So it has this nice lace detail up here around the front neck, and then the straps, and just plain stockinette through most of the body. But the bottom of it has this lace detail, which is higher on one side and lower on the other. And the bottom of it is, I think, called a broken rib, maybe. And it fits nicely, and I'm very pleased with it. So that is my Meandering top I finished, and I was very happy to get it done. And the next finished object I have is one that I didn't talk about before. Let me get it a little bit closer here. This is the Bankhead hat, and I had always heard Dan from the Bakery Bears podcast talk about knitting the Bankhead hat, and I think he's done it numerous times. And I wanted to make a hat, and so I decided I'd look at that pattern, and it was very, very easy. Now I did modify it because this twisted rib brim is supposed to be, probably 4 inches or so, and I just don't, not that I'm going to wear it, but I just don't like that on me, and I don't want one that you have to fold up. So I just made the length that I wanted and added more of this part to the hat. And it was really quick, fun knit. I might have made it a slight bit longer because I am making this for someone and I don't know, who they are, so it might fit more heads by either being slouchy or, a good fit. But I really liked the decreases at the end. Most of them were typical decreases on a hat, but there was one part where it was something I hadn't done before. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and let me show you that pattern. The Bankhead hat by Susie Gourlay. And so you can see that they did a much longer brim on hers than I did, but I think it still makes a very nice hat either way. And the yarn that I used is a yarn that, this is the 4th time I've knit something from this yarn, but in 4 different colorways. And it is a Painted Sky yarn, and it is by Knitting Fever. So it's called Knitting. When I had to look for it on Ravelry, it was Knitting Fever Painted Sky, and it's a worsted weight yarn. And here's what I have left. So you can see it where the colors vary. The purples and greens go to sometimes being all green, sometimes all purple, and sometimes a blend. And so that they're really long color repeats, so you can see how they it makes longer sections. So sort of stripy, but really long sections. Doesn't always give that appearance. I did a Quaker yarn stretcher out of 2 skeins of this yarn before, and it looked, didn't necessarily look as stripy. And I may put a picture of that here. This is the Quaker yarn stretcher, and I also made an urban. I think I'll put the name of the pattern here, but it was an urban long cowl that you could double over, so I'll put a picture of that here. And I made another hat out of a blue, and I really loved that working with the blue, is the very pretty blue and purples, and I did a pattern called Christian's Hat. So this is a yarn that's relatively inexpensive, and I mean, it's not like a cheap yarn, but it's not like paying for an indie dyed yarn. And I think I paid around $13 for the skein of this, and you can see I still have quite a bit left over. So this is the Bankhead hat with my little modification of shortening the brim. So that is a 3rd object, and I have one more. I don't know if you count it as an object. Well, it's an object, but it didn't take long, didn't take much yarn, and I will show that to you now. And that is this little Preemie hat. And you might recognize the yarn. I used this Fiber Seed Company yarn in a worsted weight, and this is in the Knit Girls color, and this is intended to raise, donate money. The Fiber Seed Company is going to donate money to one of 3 charities. They're sponsoring 3 different podcasts and created a colorway for each one. And I had purchased this and made a little hat for my grandson. So I decided that I have quite a bit left, that I would make some Preemie hats. I've only done one. I have another one kind of in the middle. But it was just one with a rolled brim. And I did try to keep to that planned pooling. I kept switching needle sizes. And since I did it on DPNs, it was really easy to just finish around in a color. And if I needed to go up or down, then I would just switch at that point. But so a little finished Preemie hat. And I will talk a little bit more about that one a bit later, because that is obviously also for a charity. So those are my finished objects, and then I have some things that are still on the needles that I will share with you now. Before I start with my works in progress, you may hear some coughing in the background, and I am podcasting while my grandson's taking a nap. He was homesick today, so I could not, home from his preschool, or he calls it play school, this morning, so I couldn't podcast this morning, which is normally when I record. And he is coughing, and I have to be able to hear him, so I've got the monitor on. So if you hear a little sound in the background, that is just him coughing, and really have my fingers crossed that I'm not going to catch his latest cough or cold that he gets. So last time I had shown you, I think the previous 2 podcasts, I've shown you my Sophie shawl. Let me get to the front page. And that is by Paulina P. And I am right at the halfway point now. In this shawl, you start off and you increase to the center. You do just a few rows that are even, and then you start decreasing. So I'm about to start that decrease part. So I will hold it up for you. Now I'm using a fairly short needle, but I'm at the widest point, so this is working just fine. And you knit this, you knit the body, which is where it increases, and the knit on border. If I hold it up here, you might be able to see that a bit better. The lace and cables at the edge. So I'm about halfway here. I am halfway, I should say. I have one more even row and then I'll start decreasing. So that's my Sophie shawl, and I'm taking this one slowly. I don't need this in any hurry at this time of the year. We've been having 95-degree weather here in Virginia, so I surely don't need a shawl. So I'm just doing 1 or 2 repeats a day on that, and it'll get done. So no particular rush. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I have mentioned I have not even started the second skein. So this is Shalimar yarns in the crayfish colorway, and this is a DK weight. Breathless DK is the name of their base. It's 75% merino, 15% cashmere, 10% silk, and I still have. Let me show you how much. I had actually thought of, well, I don't know where it's fallen on the floor. Well, I'd actually thought of going a little bit farther because I haven't even used half the yarn and I'm halfway through the shawl. I thought of doing a little bit more, going even, but I can't decide if that's going to make an impact on the shawl or not in a negative way. So just still thinking about that, and I might just, have leftover yarn, which is fine. And my next item is in my little tote that I made from the Alana Deco's Never Not Knitting, Sometimes Sewing pattern. And we will be having our giveaway today that they have given us with about 2 different deluxe copies of Annie and the Swiss Cheese Scarf. So in that bag, I'm keeping my Andre Sue Knits sock blank, the swans, upside down, of course. And I finished one of the socks. Don't recall if I showed it finished or not. I'm not sure when I finished it. And then went on to the second sock. So I'm doing the gusset decreases right now on this shorty pair of socks. And well, that's where I am on those. Just, not much to say. Using a size 1 needle, I think. Possibly a 0. I think it's a 1. So those are my works in progress. Haven't started anything new other than those hats that I started and finished. So now it's time to move to our sewing section. For sewing, I have been working on some of our prizes for the giveaways. We have the shawl along, which I had said I was going to make the bee bag for, and we also have the oldies make along, and I said I'd make I don't know what I said, but I decided I would make a project bag for that as well. And then we have gone over 4,000 subscribers, which is incredible. And I decided I would make a bag for that as well. And we'll be talking about that giveaway in another segment. But let me show you the bags that I've made for these things. The first one is the bee bag for the shawl along. And I did post a picture over in there. So what I did is I've had this bee fabric for a long time. It's a Moda fabric. It's a quilting fabric. And then I have a little charm pack, I think they're called, the little 5x5 squares of a charm pack. And so I cut out some hexagons and then attached them to the fabric with one of those hold on. He's awake. Well, let's see what happens. That he shouldn't be awake. Then I just used a machine stitch to after I used the like Wonder Under where you iron it on, it adheres, but then I went around each piece with the sewing machine. And this is the set of stitch markers and the little bee progress keeper that's from Knitty by Nature, which she gave to the podcast as a giveaway. And it's so cool because the little stitch markers are hexagonal shaped, Isn't that cool? And this is something new on my bag. I decided since I had this to go with the bag, I would like to display it on front. So I put a little loop of fabric here just to hold them. Not that you have to keep them there, and you could put something else there as well. It's just a 1 zipper bag, so the back is plain with a black canvas at the bottom and a black zipper. And inside I used a different fabric that I have. Let me show it on this side where you can see. And it says Be Inspired, which I loved right there, it showing. And I do have, I'm sorry, there's 2 zippers. I did put a zipper inside here with a different hexagon fabric inside there. But this is a shawl size bag, not a huge shawl size bag, but you can get 3 skeins of yarn in there and your project. So this is our prize for the shawl along, and this is going to, I think next Wednesday is supposed to be the day that it stops, but I won't be podcasting next Wednesday, probably a week from then, so it will go a little bit past that, maybe as far as the 24th, but when I podcast, the next time I podcast, I will right beforehand lock that shawl along thread. Actually, I think we may not lock it. I may just look at the last number, that's the last shawl that's been posted in the finished object thread, and then we may just keep that open and going. I think a lot of people knit shawls, so we could just keep it going and do it the same way we do the sock along. I just keep track of which number was in the last draw and start on the next number then. So here's our prize for the shawl along. And then I don't know where I put the next bag. Hold on. So for the oldies make along, and this is any old fabric you've had, you bought for something and you just never got around to working on it, yarn that's been sitting in your stash, patterns you bought that you haven't used. So it can be, it's a make along. That's, you know, crocheting, knitting, weaving, spinning if you have old fiber to spin, fabric for making anything, project bags, clothing, whatever you want to make. So the that I think is listed as August 17th for our drawing. So there's a lot of time still to add something to that finished object thread. And that's again, any kind of oldie thing that you've been doing. So our prize will be, I made another project bag, and this is out of this blue fabric, and I made a set of stitch markers, so I went ahead and added that little detail there. And I made a set of these are dark blue and light blue beads with some little silver dealy bobs and zippered at the top. It has a patch pocket on the inside, striped like the contrast is and like the handle is. And this is about the same size bag, you know, not exactly, but about the same size bag as the bee bag. So I think definitely a 2 skein project would fit in here, maybe a little bit more. Now I will tell you, the zipper is slightly tight by this little part here. It does zip, but it's a slight bit tight there. And I apologize, but in order to totally fix that and take it off was deconstructing the entire bag, and I wasn't up for it. It does still work, okay? And it's got a handle on it too. So that is our prize for the oldies along. So you've got lots of time if you'd like a chance to win that bag. We're talking. And the next thing is our 4,000 subscriber giveaway. And for that, I decided to make a bag and dye some yarn to match it. So this bag is slightly smaller. This is more like my traditional size bag, but it is not a 3 zipper bag. And I did the same thing. I added the little loop and made this butterfly progress keeper and stitch markers because there was a butterfly here. And this has a rather dark magenta base handle and magenta zipper. And then on the inside is a darker fabric and that same fabric as making a patch pocket. But for an extra detail, I did add the yarn guides on this side. So if you're doing something with 2 colors, you can run your yarn through those guides. And of course, you can always flip the bag down then, and it sits up really nicely with your yarn inside. So for yarn inside, now, I'm not 100% happy with it, but I just left it because I wasn't sure I was going to get anything any better. But I made a yarn that's roughly that purplish magenta color. And the pink was very nice. That is pink, I know. It looks a little bit peachy there. But the green, while the color is okay, maybe slightly bright, it is kind of a bright green in there. It didn't come out quite the way I wanted it. I was speckling it, and this procedure I used I wasn't quite thrilled with. But there is also a cord. So if you want to make some socks out of that, it'd probably be fine if you like crazy socks like I do. And then there's a contrast 30-gram skein for heels or something if you want to tone that green down. But that is our prize for 4,000 subscribers, and I will talk about that in a little bit too. Actually, I might as well just talk about it now. Well, so these are the things I've been sewing. The 4,000 subscriber giveaway, because that is a YouTube subscriber event, I would like to have that happen in the comments right below here on YouTube. And I had thought of a prompt, and it's promptly left my brain. I've totally forgotten what it was going to be. Okay, memory came back. The prompt for the 4,000 subscriber giveaway will be, have you ever attended a knitting retreat? Or have you ever, is there a knitting retreat you would like to attend, and why? And what would, if you don't want to attend a knitting retreat, maybe say, why you're not interested in doing something like that. So that will be our prompt, and if you will answer down below, then YouTube will pick a winner for us on the very next podcast. So that is for this project bag and the yarn that I put down inside of it. So that's probably all we have about coming giveaways, and then we have some giveaways for today. In fact, we have two, and the first one is for our sockathon, and this time the first number I picked was 637. Can you believe that number? Through 754. That is an amazing number of socks, and you should visit that site if you're a sock knitter, or even if you're not. There's just so many pretty socks that have been put in there, in unusual constructions and gorgeous colors and beautiful yarn, and a lot of people who knit a lot of socks. It's amazing the number of people I see over and over, another pair, and they're each one prettier than the last. So for that, anyway, start at 637 and through the number 754. So next time I'll start with 755. And the winner is number 660, which is Mystery Sewer. And Mystery Sewer, if you will contact me through a private message on Ravelry, then I will get your name and address, please, and I will mail out to you this sock blank from Andre Sue Knits, and it's called A Walk in the Woods. I think I have a mini that goes with this, but I have to dig through something up there and find it. If you are, Mystery Sewer, if you are not into knitting from a sock blank, don't like it, know that you don't like it, don't want to try, just let me know that, because I can offer you up a skein of sock yarn instead. But I just thought that I would offer up one of these. Andre Sue, I understand she's not, her website it's there, but she has a message to thank everyone for visiting her, but she's not dying right now. I don't know if she has plans to in the future, but these might be at this time a little bit hard to get. So let me know, Mystery Sewer, and congratulations. Now we have two more winners, and that is for our Never Not Knitting giveaway. This is the prize for, there are two of them, two. Annie and the Swiss Cheese Scarf, and it is a signed copy of the book inside, but it is also a little puzzle and a little paper doll set, and it's just adorable, and it comes in this lovely box. So if you're thinking of it as a gift, it would make a lovely gift with beautiful presentation. Who's surprised with that? Everyone who entered this giveaway visited Never Not Knitting, the website, and just had glowing comments about the loveliness of that site. And I will say, because what started it all was this little tote, and if you visit the site, you can purchase make your own kit, where she has a number of fabrics and lining fabrics to choose from, and they will send you out the kit with the pattern. The pattern is a print pattern, and it does include both the small tote and the large tote size. when you purchase, I think, well, I purchased the small tote size, so fabrics were cut to fit that. And it may be that you can get the large tote in the make your own kit as well. And I think there's one other kit that's still not sold out, which was a beautiful, it's this fabric, but with a dark background. So it's called Herb Garden, I think, but there's a midnight or a nighttime herb garden. That was really pretty. So who won? Well, we had 65 entries, and my entry was number 1. So I went through 2 through 65, and we had 2 winners. Number 28 is Linda Kozik, Lindakozik, and number 55 won, and that is Nicola Knits, Nicolaknits. I'll put those down below. If you would each contact me with your name, full name and mailing address, I will get these mailed out to you, just as I will for Mystery Sewer. So these are all of our giveaways and news about future giveaways for the next couple of podcasts. So we'll move on then to our children's fiber-related literature segment. Back in the finished objects, you heard me talk about 2 hats that I knit, and I said, you know, they weren't for me. And these are hats that I'm going to be giving away, and that it goes right along with our book this week. Today's book is called Kiki's Hats, and this was written and illustrated by Warren Hansen. Sorry about that glare on there. It's so hard to keep glare off of things. And you'll notice this woman sitting atop a pile of hats because Kiki knits hats. This story is based on a real Kiki, and you can actually go to the website, and I'll put it right down here for you, very easy to remember, title to that website, and watch an interview with the real Kiki and the author and illustrator of this book. Sorry, thought we were about to have to end things here. Kiki's Hats is about a woman who knits hats, and she gives them away. And in the story, she tells first some children come along and they'd like a hat, and she tells them to take another one and to give it away, and come back and tell her about it. And they do that, only they come back without the hat that she first gave them, and they want more to give away. So the book is a story. Yes, it's about knitting. Yes, it's about hats, but it's really a story about giving. So the book then goes on and shows different ways the hats are used. You'll see here for children with cancer, a homeless person puts them on their feet, somebody who can't see wears a hat, and somebody who's very, very cold. And eventually, news people come to ask us about her hats. Please tell us all about your hats. And she says, my hats, she laughed, they're not my hats. Now, why on earth would you think that? These hats belong to everyone. I only knit them just for fun. And so, as you can see, the story is told in verse. And so it's just a charming, lovely story about giving and the pleasure of giving, and that it doesn't have to be something big. It can be something that you do that's very small, but taking a talent that you have and sharing it with the world. So I think you'll love this book, Kiki's Hats. Now, I also had one other book I want to just very briefly share with you. I've shared the book Wolper with you before. And I was at the library with my grandson the other day, and we saw a sequel to the book. So this is a library book, so really hard to get the shine off of there. But it says, Ready or Not, Wolper Goes to School. And this is a book a little bit more about the angst and anxieties that young children might have about going to school, and addresses some of the different things, and in true Wolper fashion and every way. But it's not as fiber related as the original, but it has a different message. And if you have the one, and you might like to have the other as well. So I thought I'd share that with you. So that's our children's literature segment. Now let's move on to the next. I wanted to share with you another podcast that I watch, and it's Roxanne Richardson, and she has a lot of subscribers, and she offers a couple of different types of videos, but she's very big into Technique Tuesday. So on Tuesday she shares techniques with you. Well, a couple of times these have come in extremely handy for me. Recently I was just about to graft the toe, do Kitchener stitch at the end of a toe of a sock, and pulled up, of course, my subscription list to see anything new for today and to watch while I was doing this. And she had a technique called No More Dog Ears. And it was a really great way to prevent those little pointy out ends called dog ears, or just making your toe like really square looking. Amazingly simple technique, and she shows you with really good photography. Well, for me, I think it's great because she switches to just her hands and large yarn and good color contrast. You know, she'll use a contrasting color thread to show what she's doing, and that really makes it helpful. She goes slowly, and she puts little banners across to add things in or explain something farther. But as with any YouTube video, you can watch it again and again. And I was just at the right time. I needed to graft the toe, and this is something that you know, I've been doing a certain way, but this way was so much better. So I wanted to tell you about her, and this is let's see what just the beginning of her podcast there looks like. Rocks Knits, and she's quite an accomplished knitter. So I would suggest if you ever need help with a technique that you consider checking out her podcast. Well, I've been meaning to tell you for the last, I think, 2 podcasts, and then I've totally forgotten to do it. Either the podcast went too long, or then I actually just walked off and forgot, probably because it's sitting in this plain brown paper bag. But a couple of weeks ago, I took a spinning class, and it was, my board's falling there, sorry. It was, I took the class at Country Yarns, which is one of my local yarn shops, one that's a tiny bit farther than the others from me. Country Yarns. It's out in a place called The Plains, Virginia. It's about half an hour from my house, and they have a lovely yarn shop and sell a lot of different kinds of yarns, and they also have some things for needle pointing, and they sell some roving, I guess you call it. I'm such a beginner at this spinning, and I will admit to being quite stymied in a couple of respects. But I, of course, will share with you my progress, which is not particularly great. I bought this yarn from him. He gave me, I think, 6 ounces of it, and this was a Corriedale yarn from New Zealand. And so it's like this. And a drop spindle. And my first yarn, you know, it got so full on there and it started to get wobbly that I took it off, and I just took it straight to my Swift and wound it around there. And so you can see I have invented a new weight of yarn. It's the Lace Fingerings Sport DK Worsted Aran Chunky yarn, because it literally has everything in there. And you know, not great, but fun, kind of fun to do, and you know, hoping for progress to keep working at it. So the next yarn that I took off was this, which probably isn't a whole lot better, but I think it actually, you know what, I might have reversed them. Yes, I did. This was my first one. I can tell by this leader yarn color that's there. This was my first one, and this was the second. So not really a great deal of progress either way. But my third one, while it still looks like this, it's still on the spindle. It's looking a little bit better. There's still really skinny parts, and there's still really fat parts, but more of it's in getting, like, you know, within a smaller range, varying in that range, but a little bit closer, maybe leaving out some of the lace and some of the bulky. So I'm working at this. I'm really having trouble with every once in a while when I have to join another piece, all of a sudden the spindle just drops to the floor. It didn't quite take, and I feel like I did the same thing, but obviously I haven't, because it doesn't fall off all the time. But I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong. So spinning, I really feel like continuing with it and trying to get better, because to me it's such a cool thing, and it's something that's, you know, so centuries old that it feels nice to be part of something that's really an old time craft, such as making your own yarn. And then ultimately, just as an accomplishment for me, I'd love to knit something from it. So that was something that it is something I'm trying, and I continue to work on it. And I am trying to work on it, 10 or 15 minutes every day, just do a little bit more. I didn't yesterday because I need to take it off again. And I imagine maybe I was supposed to take it off a long time ago. I don't know. Anyway, and I don't know anything else about except what I'm doing. I think that would have to be the next class. It's like, what do you do next with it? The color's not enchanting me. I think maybe it would be a little bit more fun if I had something really colorful. So I'll be thinking about getting maybe just some more, or am I just so off base that I shouldn't try? I have no idea. But that's something I've been working on. I have also been working on, let me find it. I've also been working on making some little stitch markers, and you'll see that, I had made them to go on those 2 bags, like this set to go on the 4,000 subscriber giveaway bag. And I was also making some smaller ones like this, just kind of singles, and I was using some, Swarovski crystals, I'm not sure how you say that word. And I put them on these little mason jar, kind of a thick stock of paper there. It looks almost like craft paper, but it's pretty thick. And I'm doing this for something that I'm really excited about. I have not mentioned before for several reasons, but I'm quite excited and anxious that a week from today I will be in Nashville, Tennessee, attending my first knitting retreat. The SSK, or Super Summer Knit Together retreat, is held in Nashville, Tennessee at the Scarlett Bennett Center. It is hosted by the Knit Girls, and that's one of my favorite podcasts. And back in December, they had a lottery, and I had last year listened to them talk about right after the event, or before the event and after the event, talking about it, and I just felt so excited about it. So when they said the lottery was open, I put my name in, not thinking, that my name was going to get picked. And so when it did, then it was like, no, I have to go, because I'm not very good at doing things by myself. I'm very awkward. I'm not a shy person, but that definitely puts me out of my little comfort zone. If I have a buddy with me, no problem. And I think I have a lot of company in that regard. So this is kind of scary. So I wasn't sure, am I going to chicken out or not? And also I was kind of afraid that something, just on the home front with watching my grandson would not let me do it. But we did work out the logistics of his care while I'm gone, and fingers crossed that all of that goes well. But I'm so excited to let you know that I'll be there. And if anyone out there is a viewer and you're going to be there, I'd love to hear from you and to know that you'll be there. And I'd love to meet you and be so excited to meet someone who watches a podcast. That'd be really exciting. And that was the reason then for the prompt for our 4,000 subscriber giveaway. Have you ever gone and, maybe do you not go because you'd be nervous? I'm trying to venture out there and put myself into less comfortable territory for me personally, and we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm very, very excited about it. And that's also the reason that I knit these hats, because they do collect hats for chemo caps, charity, hats for homeless, and preemies. So I am going to start a chemo cap as well, and I'd like to, I want to have these to take along to give to them, and as part of something they do as part of their knitting retreat every year. So that's a little bit why. Gratitude. Time for our little gratitude segment. And I am grateful today for having gone over 4,000 subscribers. That's something I never anticipated ever, and I'm very thrilled with. So I'm grateful for all of you who have subscribed. And if you continue to, if you're new, if you would like to see more, please subscribe. And I appreciate the likes on the side. I think that helps get our name out there. And I probably shouldn't plan it because it jinxes things. So in the very, 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 very back of my mind, I am thinking about if we get to that 5,000 number, what kind of giveaway we'd have for that. So let me take a look at my notes. It seems like I might have covered everything, but let me take a little quick look. Well, that looks like I've covered everything that I had planned to. I will have a few pictures at the end here. I have 5 monarch chrysalis. Our caterpillars went very quickly to the top and made their chrysalis. This set of chrysalis are the first time, and caterpillars are the first time I've had caterpillars from a group of butterflies that are migrating still northward. They do come through Virginia going northward, but their flight path is a little bit off of where I am. And I think from some storms or what have you, got a little one off of its path that laid 5 eggs on my milkweed. So I have these 5. They will, when they're released, be heading northward, and so I should expect some more coming back, more late August, early September. That's when usually our monarchs are here in where I am in Virginia. In other places, you know, they get them both ways, but for me, I only get them going south. So those, and this is just personal observation, they stay, the caterpillars go through 5 stages where they shed their skin so that they can get bigger, and at the 5th instar, they actually hang and pupate. So at that 5th stage, when they're eating a lot, I noticed that it was only like 2 days, and typically the ones that I get in the fall go from 2 to 4, well, really more like 3-4 days at that stage, seem to go through a lot more milkweed. So I'm thinking, because that's the group of butterflies that live the longest, they have to migrate to Mexico, survive the winter, and then head north, and then they would lay eggs and die. They have to last longer, so maybe they eat more. I don't know. My own little, very limited experience with this early summer group going through, but we shall see. So anyway, there'll be some pictures at the end, and thanks for watching and sticking with me this long. Bye-bye now.